Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and today is Wednesday, and we thought we will discuss something which is required to bounce back the business today. And this is about how do we restart our normal life, like going to restaurant or going to a public library or even going to office. To discuss this further, let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Naval Gund.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Yes, when we're going back to work, when we're going to public spaces, it's not going to be like it was before. So, not only have we got to rely on people making the place slightly different, but actually we need to rely upon our own behaviour being permanently changed, I think. So, there's a combination here, CK. But public spaces, what do you think should be done in the public space arena with new public spaces? Let's say the retro arena, we can deal with later in the program. But with a new public space, what do you think architects are now and designers are now having to think about?
Well, there are a lot of things that the architects of the future will have to think about. I think as a man, as a citizen, and as a human being, I feel that the first thing is that every public place will have a sort of a man door or a human door, which will sanitize the entire person from top to bottom before they even think about entering that public place. So I think that is one gadget that is required in front of all restaurants, all offices, all public libraries, and stuff like that.
That's interesting because that's almost like going into a confined laboratory where cleanliness is absolutely important. I mean, you see these people in all these fancy suits, with almost like a spacesuit, and they go into this decontamination zone. Do you really think we're going to be going down that route? Because that's a little radical, isn't it?
No, I don't think so. It's just a 10 seconds job. It's like having another door in front of your door of your restaurant. So all you have to do is stand at a particular location so that the sprays can be made on you, and that's it. You enter the place. So it's not going to be very radical. Even though when we talk about it, it sounds like radical, but in practical, it will be very simple device. I think most of the bank already has those kind of two-door setups. So it is not going to be too radical, except that there is going to be one spray which will sanitize you from top to bottom.
Well, I'm a bit shocked to say the least, because I think that is radical. It certainly would be seen as radical in the UK, so that every building that I enter, I'm going to get a shot of something over the top of me. I mean, we're talking about people that won't even take the vaccine because they're worried about whether it will affect their DNA or whether it's got some animal fluid in it or whatever. But now someone's going to spray me all over with a disinfectant that I have no idea where it's come from. Equally, I may be allergic to having some of this disinfectant, because that's what it is the disinfectant hitting my skin or my hair or my glasses or my clothes. Do you really think we're going to be going down that route?
Well, level, I think we have been experiencing all our life, or whenever we took a flight, it is always disinfected because I think I have been seeing all my life, before we sit and take off from any airport, they disinfect with the people in it. It's not that when people are out of the aircraft, they disinfect. With people in it, they just spray it and then they said, okay, now we are ready to take off. So it's
Well,
not
you
so
see,
radical.
this is a big difference in culture, because I can tell you now, the only time I sat on an aircraft and that happened to me was when I was in Indonesia. So flying into and out of India, that never happened to me. Flying into and out of America, that's never happened to me. And flying into and out of the UK, that's never happened to me. So um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're going to be going down the same route here. I think this is going to be a huge, a massive radical step for a disinfectant to be in front of every building. But we'll see. We'll see. So that's the new build, okay? That because that would take care of all the new build. So it disinfect people. But of course, if they're carrying this virus or any other virus, it's not going to kill it, is it? So to me, that would be a bit of a radical measure for no particularly specific gain. I can see that there's been a huge increase. In fact, a very good friend of mine had a patent out there that they realized what the patent could do. And fundamentally, it sprays handles. So imagine that above the handle of every door, once it's been used and the door shuts, it activates a little mechanism. It just sprays the handle, so it disinfects the handle. I can see that happening a lot because I've already seen it being utilised in some London London tall buildings, high rise, where there's multiple occupancy. But I think that's about as radical as I've seen it go so far. I haven't seen any. I haven't heard of any thought of spraying people before they enter the building. That might be a bit 22nd century stuff, but we'll see. We'll see.
So
But what about our behaviour? What about our behaviour going outside now? Because what we saw in the first lockdown, where people were told that this disease, this virus, is passed on by human contact, we did see the Space Invader arena. We did see people making sure there was adequate space in between the person and somebody else. Even in the high street, we saw that. People would almost be walking on the other side of the road to avoid that physical contact. But complacency has set in subsequently. And we now see we've drifted back into previous behaviour, where crowds gather. There is no social distancing as such. The business context of being a space invader, and for all those listening, the space invader concept in a business arena is give the other person some space so that you can talk with them rather than talking into their face like this. That's the whole point of not being a space invader. But I've seen our behavior has drifted back into previous behavior. So I think there's going to be an even bigger onus on people changing their behavior permanently. So where you are in a confined space, you need to make as much space between you and the next person, which is easier said than done. I mean, we've seen it on London Underground here about people piling onto the Underground. I know you've been on the London Underground. You know what it's like. You get in there and there's absolutely no space because you're squeezed into a small area, and there's no point in waiting for the next train to come along because it'd be just as bad. I mean, fundamentally, we've got too many people going into too small a space. You can manipulate that, if you like, by not allowing people to go down onto the platform. So you regulate people physically being on the platform. But then again, how do you do that? Because you don't know how many people are getting off the tube, the next train that comes in, and how many people are currently on it. And unless you start to use cameras and AI, and now we're getting into sophistication, aren't we? So, but of course, all of that costs money. Whereas just telling people, don't be a space invader, change your personal habits, keep 2 meters between you and the next person. Surely that's a lot easier to do, isn't it?
Well, that is why architects will have a hand full, because they need to plan their door entries in such a way that the spray of disinfectant happens and people don't even realize or don't even feel about it, so that the culture issue can be tackled. And as you said that, people are just going back to old ways. So it's very difficult to change behavior of the people. For example, you just mentioned that you have seen the spraying of aircraft only once in your lifetime in Indonesia. But the fact is, you can do Google on this, that every flight is disinfected. And they probably they must be doing it without you seeing they are doing it. So I think it is a fact. When people sit before the takeoff, they disinfect the flight along with the people. It is being happening for last at least 30-40 years, or even before I started flying, because I did not start flying. I just started flying 25 years back. I have been seeing this happening, and it has become such a routine that we don't even look at it. It's like, when the air hostess announces, "Hey, this is what you have to do. This is where the exit plan is," and this as part of that drill, they also do disinfection of the aircraft. So what we need to do is basically design the public space entry points where the disinfect infect happen, the spray happens, so that people are confident enough to leave their safe confined of the house and go and meet their friends in public places. So that is number one. Number two, from my side, is when they enter a public place, they need to leave their name and mobile numbers behind for contact tracing. I think that should also become our behavior going forward, so that we know exactly with whom we came in contact. Now, in most of the countries, this may sound like violation of privacy laws, but I think this is something that we need to do. Who told us that we need to have a privacy like this? Somebody told us that we need to have privacy like this, but now we have to do our privacy like this. So I think it's a behavioral change that we need to do, because in case you came in contact with a person who is carrying some sort of virus, the doctor should be able to trace you and give you treatment immediately for your own good. I think that should be the second step before you enter the public arena.
Okay, what if you've not got a mobile?
Well, in that case,
Exactly, exactly, exactly. It's not easy, is it? Think you can say these things, and they all sound very plausible and acceptable. And I don't have a problem with my mobile number being, picked up by a machine on the way into a building. It's good for security, for the building security. I don't have to fill in any HSE form, which is now mandatory in all UK buildings. If I go into a building, I've either got a card that gets me in and out of the building because I'm a resident in that building in some way, shape, or form, or if I'm a visitor, I have to sign in, and then I'm given a card so I can move around the building. So I don't have a problem with giving my mobile number out, or even if they want to track me around the building through facial recognition. I'm not bothered really, as long as they use the data within the confines of the data context. I don't have an issue whatsoever. But then we have this issue of what's the context? Is it out of context? Am I on some Interpol database? Am I at GHQ in Cheltenham? Are they listening into our video conversation here? That's the privacy issue that we're constantly dealing with. Is Facebook using my data correctly? Is it being sold through the dark web? Frankly, I have no idea. I mean, it may well be. I mean, we all see these pictures of good-looking men and good-looking women, and they're used to con money out of people in a different part of the world. And believe you me, I've seen some and heard some horrific stories where people have been swindled out of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in some cases, of scammers and spammers just there um, preying on your frailties, human frailties. And I think that's where we are today. This is human frailty. We need to be resilient about the coming world, because a lot of countries still haven't opened up yet. I mean, in the UK, we're still in lockdown. We're allowed to go out for exercise and to shop, but everything else is currently locked down. It will open up. I mean, I haven't been able to go down the golf range, which is socially distanced, because when you're swinging a club, you don't want anybody anywhere near you because it's going to hurt if it hits them. Okay, so that's a socially distanced arena, but golfing range have been closed, despite the fact it's good for social activity in particular, and for personal activity. So exercise. So it's going to be a new arena, and I don't have a problem in some respects of what you're saying, although I'm not too sure. I'm trying to think now. Have I been on an aircraft and I've not noticed this? I'm normally pretty aware of what's going on. They may have secretly stuck it into the oxygen system, in which case, yep, okay, I've had it. I can remember seeing some videos of the air stewardess or the air stewards going down with these sprays, and they're just literally spraying from front to back. But I can tell you now, there's only one occasion going internally within Indonesia that happened. And it wasn't consistent either. There's only one occasion. I travelled in Indonesia many, many times for over many years. So, but anyway, let's not dwell over that one. Let's go about. You mentioned two things. What about a third one? Is there a third one?
Yes, of course. So once you have been disinfected at the door of your restaurant, and now you have left your records, now you're free to go inside the restaurant. But inside the restaurant, you will come in contact with the serving staff and also the chefs, which is against the social distancing norms. So you have to go inside your own cabin. It could be a glass cabin. It could be a new type of furniture which prevents it prevents contact with other guests which are there. So there are two choices. One is you can just put a plexiglass. It is not very attractive to look at and looks very, very, very communist type of furniture if you just put a plexiglass. Or the interior designers have an opportunity now to make very classy, confined places and sort of a greenhouse, create a romantic setup where two people can go and enjoy themselves separately, and things like that. So I think there is a lot of opportunity which is there for the interior designers and architects to redesign the whole place so that we can kickstart our public life, because now we are at home, we have to go out sometime, we cannot be stranded at home. So while following the social guidelines which are new, uh, sounds radical, but it could be new way the world will work in 2021. You have to disinfect yourself. You have to leave your number before you enter a public arena, and then you enjoy yourself, in your own confined place.
I think it's interesting. But what happens when you've got a party of 3 or a party of 4, or you want to take over the whole restaurant? I mean, on occasions, I've got quite a large family for one reason or another, and we've had 20 or 30 in a restaurant and take the restaurant over. So do you physically have to move these cubicles around? I think there are lots of practicalities. I mean, I can see the logic around what you're saying here, but there's lots of practicalities. And of course, then there's the cost. These won't be, if you're putting up a bit of plastic, which, as you say, isn't particularly attractive, but it's functional, that's not a huge cost. But if now you're doing some bespoke design and making it a part of the furniture, that's a tremendous cost. And who's going to pay for that? Because I tell you who will pay for that. It will be you and me paying for that in the cost of the meal, in the cost of dining out. And maybe that's right. If we can't behave ourselves and socially distance, it's going to cost us in the pocket. That's when maybe behavior will start to change.
I think we are already doing that. You go to any fancy French restaurant in Paris. In terms of food, they will give you a small food in the middle of your plate, but it'll cost you, $1,000. And I know. So you don't go for eating, you go for experience. And there is
It's called
a
fine dining. Fine dining. It's called fine dining, my friend. And and I've been to those restaurants as well. Boy, some of it is great fine dining too. But yes, it's quite true. But it's quite interesting, and it's good we're having a bit of fun about this because things are going to change. We need to understand things are going to change, and we need to be part of the change. We need to be recognizing my even I can remember back to being a very young child, and my parents, my mother in particular, because my father was typically at work, would say, "Wash your hands before you eat. Wash your hands. If you Neville, have you been to the toilet? Go wash your hands." I mean, boys are notoriously bad for this. We didn't. Well, I never wash my hands. Basically, I can see me sitting at the table now, and my hands have just been, I've been playing football or something in the garden, and they're black with mud. And my mother would just say, "Go wash your hands," and she would then stand over me at the sink whilst I wash my hands. You know, so this is about personal cleanliness, and I think that will be more and more reinforced as we go forward. And I'm not talking necessarily about hand sanitizers and goodness knows what else, although, my wife's behavior has changed massively. All women have handbags, and there isn't a handbag in the house that hasn't got a hand sanitizer in, just in case she forgets to put it in. And sometimes there are two hand sanitizers. And as you know, as I know all the time, I have to carry certain things for my wife because the handbag's not big enough. So, can you put the mobile phone in your back pocket? Um, so it's like another appendage that she's got that she passes on to me. And I'm sure all partnerships have got these sort of issues. But I can't go anywhere. I can't get in the car without the hand sanitizer being there. I mean, we have an air spray everywhere now. You know, you come in the house, you open the front door, and there's air spray that goes on automatically. It's really nice, uh, but our behaviour's changed. You know, has it changed for the good? Well, the place smells nice and fresh, but then again, well, I'm nose blind, so it wouldn't make much difference to me anyway. But we as a human population inhabiting this planet, we have got to change our behaviour, and it's not just changing our behaviour with regards to personal hygiene, etc. It's changing our behaviour to protect the environment, because as we
yes.
know, there are certain things that are affecting the environment.
So imagine, Neville, we are all itching to go out to eat our best meal in the best restaurant. Uh, some of us would like to do fine dining, have our partners and, enjoy the romantic evenings. I think everybody is across the world is itching for doing this. Imagine an opportunity. If there is a restaurant which that advertise that, hey, I have taken care of all these things, come to me and you will feel secure. It's like that. So I think if there is an interior designer who can tap on this opportunity, design the entry, make sure that there is a contact tracing, and also make sure there are cabins so that other guests also feel secure when they are dining in this particular restaurant. And if the restaurant advertise, imagine, how people will take it. I think they would like to just get out and go there because they will feel safe. And that is the way we have to start our life as a
Oh,
social life.
I certainly think that there's a competitive advantage here, which is effectively what you're saying. Um, we have got something that other restaurants haven't got. You know, let alone is it good food? You're now safe and secure. I mean, we would never have thought of that 18 months ago. Come to this restaurant and you will be safe. Excuse me. I mean, that wasn't a USP 18 months ago, but it is today. Yes, so you're right. I mean, an entrepreneur, a good entrepreneur, needs to be taking advantage of all these opportunities to get people back into the dining arena or the socialization arena. Just having a coffee with your friends. I mean, we have a small high street, Having said that, there are about 180 shops, very small shops, pubs, restaurants. We have 5 pubs, 8 restaurants, 2 post offices, 3 convenience stores, a number of coffee shops, as called, and a bakery, and goodness knows what else. So it's a very social little area. It's quite busy during peak times, and it's a hub where kids go to school. So at the end of the 2 ends of the particular the high street, it's where buses interchange. So you can get a bus from somewhere to somewhere else, and they tend to be hubs. And typically the kids have to walk through the high street to get from one particular bus stop to another one. So it's quite busy at certain times of the day. So between about 7:30 in the morning and about 9:30 in the morning, very busy. Then about lunchtime, and then from about 3 in the afternoon until about 6. So it's quite a hive, but very busy type of arena. But it's a very narrow high street. The pavement, there isn't a meter between the edge of the pavement and the road, you know. So even then, it's very interesting to see mob behaviour, because that's what it is. It's a crowd behaviour, people walking down the street. There are calls, by the way, for making it a pedestrian zone, which will be very interesting. How do you get a bus from one side of a pedestrian zone to another? So, but planners, architects, designers, all having to think about this new era. What do we do? Where do we do it? How can we get around another potential issue that might come down the pike? Because no matter what we think about this, social distancing, it will be in the dictionary. It will be a term that is translated into every language around the world.
Absolutely, Nibal. In fact, slowly the schools have started opening, and yesterday's one of the key items that we heard in the news is that in one particular school somewhere in India, 57 students, young students, were found positive with COVID. So I think the same phenomena is true for restaurant. I think redesigning of schools needs to be done, and also public places like offices and all that. Until unless we bring that confidence in people, they will not be very confident going out to public places. I think architects now have to come forward, and all the business people like hospitalities, they have to redesign their business. Otherwise, they have to shut their shops. So I think that is the only method of moving ahead and be innovative and restart the public life arena.
It's a different arena, and we've literally just scratched the surface here. I think our message, though, is change is happening out there. Be part of the change. You know, change your behaviour so that it will help others. So fascinating subject today, CK. You know, I hope everyone is safe out there. COVID is rapidly going away in the UK thanks to this vaccine. We're seeing far less cases now than we have before, which has got to be good news for everybody around the world. And let's hope that we can finally get a handle on this so that the next coronavirus that comes down the pike, we're prepared for, and we don't have to go into these radical lockdown measures that we've had in the past.
Absolutely, Neville. I think we can end our discussion today. And clearly, there's an opportunity for hospitality and public offices, and also the architects and interior designers. So, with this positive note, I thank you for finding time and coming over to our show and discussing this. I will catch up with you tomorrow with something more interesting.
My pleasure. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.
Bye bye.